A very good afternoon to all the participants here. First of all, I'd like to welcome our chief guest, Architect Habib Khan sir, all the dignitaries, our speakers, and most of all, our participants. Uh, to go further, I will invite the director of our institution, BMS CA, to please welcome you all and tell about Quadrants 1 and also about this web series, which is a joint venture of COA-TRC Bhopal and BMS College of Architecture. May I please invite Mamta ma'am?
Well, thank you, Shubhra. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. First of all, very good afternoon to all of you. And I extend a hearty welcome once again to all the participants, speakers, and the chief guest who is here with us. Well, I would like to start with a very warm welcome to Architect Habib Khan, COA President, and to all the speakers of today's session and all the participants. Glad to mention that this joint venture of webinar sorry. Well, glad to mention that the joint venture of webinar series of BMS College of Architecture, Bangalore, with Council of Architecture has received overwhelming response with 86 participants from 24 states. I'm sure this is in turn with our perception of quadrants. Well, I'm extremely thankful to architect Navneet Munot, Honorary Director, Council of Architecture, TRC, COA-TRC, Bhopal, who has been guiding us throughout the process. To come back to a brief introduction about the quadrants, the idea of documenting the post-independence Indian architecture is what induced the foray for the Vanguards of Indian Architecture. Past 17 years have seen four major eras, from the grapple for survival as an independent nation to the quest for recognition of Indian architectural fraternity and their credo across India. The four chapters of quadrants are framed across the four quantum leaps along these years. Chapter 1 is named The Architecture of the Independence, focused on question that is the present architectural fraternity, following the inspirations of architects of the independent India. We have our speakers from the two prominent destinations, one marking the beginning of British colonization and other inviting the newly independent Indians with the open hand. The upcoming chapters of these series will focus on the state of architecture betwixt policies, followed by augmentating sustainability and architecture. We will conclude these series with the curious canvas on globalization of inclusiveness. Quadrants 2021, through this platform of COA and BMS-CA, aims to accentuate and pervade the identity of India architects through direct interaction with the trailblazers. To proceed further with this interaction with the trailblazers, it's a pleasure to invite our chief guest for the series. Definitely, the name needs no introduction. He is the president of the Council of Architecture, Architect Habib Khan. He has been motivating and inspiring the architecture fraternity throughout nation towards our professional endeavors. Architect Habib Khan graduated in architecture as a gold medalist from VNIT. Formerly, it was VRCE, and he did his master's in architectural design in 1988 from University of Illinois. 1991, he started his practice in India with Smita Habib Khan Architects in Nagpur. He has received several awards, and to name a few, Orange City Achievement Award and State Level Award for Excellence in Architectural Profession and Education by the IIA Maharashtra chapter. So we welcome you to the Chapter 1 of Quadrants, Architecture of the Independence, focused at attempting to link the quantum leaps of post-independent Indian architecture to the 70 years of the journey of independent India. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and may I request you to inaugurate this web series.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Mamta, for introducing me and inviting me here. My fellow panelists today, Dr. Navneet Munot, Honorary Director of COA-TRC Bhopal, Dr. Mamta Raj, fellow panelist, Architect Prasad Ranjan Das and Architect Shivdat Sarma Sharma ji. It's an honor to have you with us on this platform, and I'm sure our participants of the workshop and the audience will get immensely benefited by your presence and by your wisdom and your knowledge and the vast repertoire of work that you both have. It is the first of all, accept warm greetings from the Council of Architecture, and it is our endeavor at the Council to promote awareness about architecture in various aspects concerning profession and academics amongst our own fraternity. And I want to put on record the phenomenal activity that is happening in the TRCs. We at the moment have Pune and Bhopal. And Navneet ji has become very active recently, and he's taking very sustained interest in furthering the cause of the council at the moment. When the pandemic struck the world and the lockdowns happened, we took the help of this virtual platform, wherein instead of getting bogged down by the lockdowns and the negativity that was going around, we started using this platform, and it was our endeavor to take architectural education awareness amongst our own fraternity through this medium. And we started having online training programs, online awareness programs. We started the COA social platform, where we were able to be in touch and infuse some kind of positivity amongst our fraternity, and also use it in such a way that it becomes constructive rather than getting weighed down by the negatives that were happening in the world. And I'm very happy to say we realized that we were able to conduct and organize such programs in multitudes. When we were doing this physically, face to face, there was a restriction of travel, of space, of logistics, of accommodation, and inviting speakers, taking their times, making arrangements for their travel. But this platform has been a boon for us, and we are able to reach out to a lot of people amongst our fraternity, practicing architects and academicians. And I want to thank each and every contributor, whether they are participants or contributors in terms of resource persons who have come forward without any hesitation, unequivocally, and supported this cause of the council. We are also happy to announce that we are opening another TRC in Delhi, in Okhla, in a new premises. We will soon be starting furnishing of the premises, and we'll try to make it functioning within a couple of months. And I'm also happy to say that we're opening one TRC in Bangalore University, where land has been allotted to us, and we're working on the formalities. So we'll have these 4 TRCs working within the next 6 months or so, is what I hope positively that will happen. And I look forward to similar kind of contribution and support that you all are giving to the council. The topic that you all have chosen, which is the quadrant and concerns the vanguards of the Indian architecture, is a very important and a very relevant topic as far as the documentation and talking about our architecture is concerned. Uh, if you notice, we all are aware of it that we do not document and talk about architecture of our own as much as the Western world does. So much so that the textbooks, coffee table books, or the documentation on architecture that has happened outside the country and not within the country. Only recently, apart from few iconic names that we all know of, who had documented their works or their books were published. Very recently, few monographs have started coming in uh, of architects who are newer, who are doing good work, and they have started talking about their work, started publishing their books. And the four quadrants that you have worked out is a very comprehensive summation of the Indian architectural scene and the scenario. My only request is that we hope to deliberate and inquire about so much of good work happening across the country, minus the so-called concentrated sectors of architectural development like Bangalore or Ahmedabad or Bombay or Delhi. There are tier two, tier three cities. There are so many architects who are working who probably are unrecognized, not acknowledged, and whose work is not documented. But the kind of work that is happening is phenomenal. And I realize this because in the various juries of awards, whether it was the IIA or the Triple ID or JK Cement or so many other awards that I participated as a jury member, I realized the kind of entries that were coming in and the kind of work that is happening in our country is equivalent to all international standard, any international standard. And it is unfortunate that we have not been able to make a comprehensive Bible of the work that is happening in our country. I implore and request BMSCA and COA-TRC Bhopal to look into this aspect and also, if not this workshop, but have another workshop where we are able to identify the kind of work, meaningful work that is happening in our country and bring it forward on national platform, document it in forms of book or reports or papers or journals or whatever is convenient. But the recognition of these architects who are working in the hinterlands should also be acknowledged. And we need to now look beyond the few iconic names or few iconic architectural practices, acknowledged architectural practices, whom we all know and whom we have all seen, and without undermining their contribution to architectural development in our country, we need to also acknowledge this aspect. And I hope Navneet ji will look into this and will work out some framework to bring them forward on a national platform. Because unless we document and talk about our own works, unless we talk about our own thought processes, the world doesn't come to know. And it is time that the world knows the quality of work that is happening in our country and the contribution that happens collectively as Indian architecture. After independence, there was this search for an identity that happened. New country was emerging, a new nation was emerging, and there was a lot of introspection happening as to what should be the modern architecture of our country, what should be the path that the architecture should take in a new nation. And there were a lot of people talking about this. There were a lot of foreign architects who were invited to contribute in the making of the country. And a lot of debate and discussion used to happen. And a lot of architects were working wherein they were trying to find an Indian identity, a regional Indian identity to the architecture that was to happen in our nation. Uh, but as usual, in the wave of the globalization and industrialization and internationalism, we somewhere lost that thought process, that seminal thought process, wherein we forgot what should the architecture of our country be, and we forgot where our architecture should go to. And it is time that we rethink about path and the road map that we had charted for ourselves. And I'm sure architects of today will, and the future architects and the younger generation that is to come will debate this and introspect on this aspect, wherein we should be able to arrive at an architecture which is very Indian, which is very contextual, which is based on our traditions, culture, and our past, and carry it forward in a contemporary framework where it is acceptable within a respected time frame, wherein we say that we are contributing meaningfully to the scene of architecture in the world. And I'm sure a lot of work is happening, and you will also look into this. I am pleased to inaugurate this workshop, Quadrant, Vanguards of Indian Architecture. And I want to thank Dr. Mamta for giving me this opportunity and thinking of this theme to, to discuss and deliberate upon. I declare the workshop open, and I wish all the best to all the participants, and thank once again all the panelists who are here today and who will come in the coming 4 days. And I'm sure the fraternity will get immensely benefited. Thank you so much on behalf of the Council of Architecture, and I'm looking forward to similar cooperation and contribution from all of us in the fraternity, for all of us in the fraternity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for infusing these words of inspiration and positivity amongst all of us. You have very rightly said and delivered the theme of Vanguards of Indian Architecture, Quadrants. We all need to really understand that nationalism again. We believe this initiative will further contribute towards the encouragement of Indian architectural fraternity. With this, I would now go further and once again tell that this venture is initiated through a platform of Council of Architecture TRC Bhopal. I now invite the Honorary Director, COA-TRC Bhopal, Dr. Navneet Monoth, to please brief us on the upcoming events and initiatives.
Thank you, Abhi sir. Thank you, Shubhra. Namaskar. On behalf of COA-TRC Bhopal, I welcome all the participants for this webinar series on 70 years of Indian architecture. First of all, I would like to give my sincere thanks to Council of Architecture, New Delhi, for this wonderful initiative by setting up its training and research center at Manit Bhopal and taking responsibility to conduct such events across the country exclusive for students, academicians, and architects. It giving me immense pleasure to say that COA-TRC Bhopal has completed more than 2 years and has successfully organized several events in these last 2 years. I would like to briefly mention about the COA-TRC Bhopal ongoing and proposed initiatives for the information of all the participants present today. The TRC Bhopal with Manit Bhopal is organizing a webinar series on the theme Traditional Knowledge in Architecture on the 28th day of every month. Another webinar series on smart cities in developed and developing countries will also be organized on 8th day of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. with RIT Bengaluru. A one-day national seminar on dialogues on the sustainable development goals in the hill area is proposed on 5th February 2021 in collaboration with DIT Dehradun. TRC Bhopal and Manit Bhopal are jointly organizing a teacher training program for architecture faculties to train them for subject specific from 15th to 19th February 2021. Also, a national conference on Internet of Things for building design and urban infrastructure is also proposed on 26-27 June 2021. The TRC Bhopal is also going to propose several events like BIM training program for the students and practicing architects in the month of March 2021, along with another training program with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Government of India on the provision of Energy Conservation Building Code. Through all these initiatives, the TRC Bhopal is trying to achieve its following objectives. to facilitate the provision of business incubation in the field of architecture through activities like teacher training program, faculty development program, and continuing education program. Second, to prepare the student and young graduates in taking up the challenges across various emerging fields of architecture. Last but not least, I once again welcome all my students, architects, academicians, experts. I wish for the success of this webinar series. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Over to you, Shubhra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for briefing us about the upcoming initiatives of COA-TRC, Bhopal. Now, starting further with this journey of interaction with the architecture of the independence through the architects who were newly independent in that era, I request the event coordinator and also the director of BMS College of Architecture, Dr. Mamta P. Raj, to introduce our speakers to the participants. Ma'am.
Let us begin this journey of post-independence Indian architecture from the land of art, culture, and aesthetics that gave us numerous nationalist scholars and, to be specific, artists. Our first speaker is architect Prasad Ranjan Das, former chief government architect and ex officio chief engineer, PWD Government of West Bengal, for more than 7 years. Born on the very year of independence, architect Das is an alumni of Bengal Engineering College, now IEST, and SPA Delhi. He has contributed to the profession as a member of COA representing West Bengal, fellow member of IIA and Institution of Engineers, and associate member of the Institute of Town Planners. He served as the director of School of Architecture and Planning, Graphic Era Hill University, Dehradun, and been a guest faculty in Jadavpur University and PMCA, Orissa. Also a member of Building and Campus Committee of various universities in the state, including Bengal Engineering and Vishwabharati University. He has worked on a gamut of projects including Roopkala Kendra at Salt Lake, Rabindra Bhavan at Shamnagar, State Archaeological Museum at Behala, and High Court project of Kolkata, and list goes on with several institutional, commercial, administrative, hospitality, and healthcare projects. He has several publications in architecture and planning. To name a few, The Causes and Remedies of Urban Decay, published in the Institute of Town Planners, Architecture of Writers in Architect's Vision, 100 Years of Skyscrapers, and many more. Also, short stories written by him have been edited by Satyajit Ray. Besides architecture, his contribution in Bengali music was honored by Government of West Bengal as a member of the Rajya Sangeet Academy. Further, he has also contributed to the literature through various short stories. He is a popular and senior vocal artist of the All India Radio and Doordarshan. We welcome you, sir, and look forward to capture the architecture of the independence through your vision and expertise. Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me? Am I hard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Mamta Raj. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the lecture series organized by COA-TRC Bhopal, together with BMS College of Architecture, Bengaluru. At the outset, I thank Professor Navneet Monodji, who first contacted me a few days ago, and just today we are meeting each other. Otherwise, we had telephonic discussions previously. Professor Habib Khan who also knows me, and I also know him very well because we have a lot of things in store to do for the architecture of the country on behalf of COA. He is the president COA, and we are very much privileged that he has opened this discussion just a few seconds ago. Dr. Mamta Raj, architect Shubhra Pandey, who has been relentlessly working on this and been contacting with me with all her help, and of course, all the staff and faculty of BMS College for arranging such web interaction. And also I welcome the students and faculties and people from other disciplines who are allied to our profession from different service industries, and ladies and gentlemen. I feel extremely honored to have been invited to deliver the first lecture in this webinar series Quadrant 2021, and I dedicate my paper in memory of late Professor Joseph Wallenstein. Picture one. Who was the head of the department of my alma mater B College for a long time, and just bear with me. Yes. You can see Professor Joseph Wallenstein, and I am standing in a tweed court when he was being conferred honoris causa doctorate in Delhi, India Habitat Center, and he wanted his student from B College long time ago. I was that time in Delhi, and I was privileged to read his citation. He left Oklahoma a long time and never went back, and he stayed for good here in India, and he shaped a new generation of architects from Bengal Engineering College. That was the first ever degree course in India since 1949. Well, now we have to, as a former chief architect of Bengal, I have to focus my experience on my state because it has different climatic zones. But before that, I say that an overview of architecture of our country, the aim is that, and to re-establish our identity as architects and builders with people of independent India. That is the prime objective, because many people of our country do not have a proper idea of our profession and what we do or serve them like. After a long struggle for freedom, starting from 1857, the first ever armed uprising that was understated by the colonial rulers as a mutiny, we ultimately achieved independence from colonial rule in 1947, but not in the way as strived for the great freedom fighters. I also hail from a family of that undivided independent India was in our dreams. We had a nation, but the ecstasy of freedom also came with the agony of partition and its enormous problems encompassing the subcontinent that also took the architects a heavy toll upon the planners and architects of our country to tackle in face of a sudden influx and exodus of huge population seeking the refuge, particularly in Punjab and Bengal. I believe Habib and our Shivdat Sharma, who is from Punjab, is also with us, and they may agree with me. Now, This is also to share my experience with you as the former Chief Architect Bengal with a focus on Bengal. Bengal is essentially a riverine land where the villages, towns and cities developed and flourished mostly along the rivers and alongside the water bodies. But interestingly, the land also has the hills of the Himalayas over the head and the vast sea called Bay of Bengal below the south. Now, let us be on a journey outside our design studios to discover the architecture of Bengal. Next. Jolly. You can jolly well see the zonal map. It is first the hill area on the north. Then we shall go side by side with focusing the architecture of that. The sketches show a typical mountain architecture of Bengal in Darjeeling area. You see, the houses have a slanting roof because to avoid the snow and be free from the so that the snow can pass off. Because of the slope, the land is made that way in steps and levels, and it is the retaining walls you can see. And the levels, the houses can have more than one entries and not from the same level. It can be approached from the different level, and the retaining walls are usually made of DRM or CRM. DRM is dry rubble masonry. The boulders are stacked with wire nets, and even if after some years it is rusted and corroded, they get stable. And in a more landslide prone area, the retaining walls are of CRM, that is cement rubble masonry, and they are more stable. And next, you know, the Darjeeling area and the hill area have the main economy, and the people go on tea, timber, tourism, travels, and teaching institutions. You see that I have the St. Paul's School on the screen, and the slope roofs. You can see the fireplaces, the chimney stacks, and the arches. And this is typical thing that we had from the European style, with the mansard roofs, and we can call it Gothic because the internal sides are on ribbed vault. Next. This is Raj Bhavan. We are of Darjeeling, the second capital of Bengal. During the winter time, they leave it for Calcutta, and the summertime, this is a summer capital. It has a dome. So we also are having a dome, and that architecture is certainly different than what I have previously shown. Next. This is the typical mountain house that I was speaking about. They have two levels of entry here, and from above, the road above, slanting roof, and this is the Gymkhana Club of the hill people, and it is quite old building. Next. Our pride, the toy train, the World Heritage train. This is the Ghoul station, and the the highest station of the world. The Loop Batasia is the highest on the world, including South America and others, where high railroads are there. Next. And this is another influence. It is the influence of the Far East, that is the Buddhist. This is the Ghoul Monastery, one of my favorite spots. The influence of colonial rulers with Buddhists and Hindu temples. Mountains have made a very interesting thing, but one thing is there in common, that levels are different, roofs are slanting, because of the coal fireplaces will be there, and the architecture has developed its own style, that is the hill style, hill type of Darjeeling. Next. This is the Graham's home of Kalimpong, again a Gothic structure, and I can show a very interesting thing here. This one. That's Mount Hermon School. Next. Before that, there is a okay. Again, there was a very beautiful glass I gave in the screen. I'm not finding that colored glass. I think I can make it, find it for you. No, before that, after that. It has gone missing. Now, let us come to Foothills area. This is the rain-prone, flood-prone Tista Valley, which I have shown in the map at the Foothills Terrae zone. Show the map, the previous map, map again, back to the map. This is the Foothills zone from this zone 1. The sketches shows the typical house of the Foothills. You can find that because of the rain-prone, flood-prone area, the first level is on the stilts, and it is also giving protection from the reptiles. And because you see the projection on all the side of the stilts, usually the reptiles advance on their belly. They cannot advance in the upside down way. So there, and the ground floor, the ground level is usually for storing cattle. This is the typical rain-prone, flood-prone North Bengal Tista Valley house. The windows are bigger because it is humid. Lot of airflow has to be let in the house, and the roof, slanting roof, to as a protection from the rain and to discard the rains. It is also projected outside the house and the rooms so that the rain splashes cannot enter the room. It is projected. You can call it a projected roof or working as Chaja projections. Next. This is a typical Kuch Bihar Maharaja's house in North Bengal. You can see all the styles have gone there. The dome reminds us of St. Peter's. The columns remind us of some, most of them are, they are confined Corinthian columns. And the two styles have given rise to another style, which is a mixture style, but looks very good. And it is also very permanent and stable. It is still there and it is working. And well, it is also a visiting place for many outside people. Architects are also visiting there. This is the Planters Club, which I have mentioned in my sketch. my black and white sketch. You see the level is higher, the roofs are sloped, the fireplace is there, and the residential level has to be approached by steps from ground to up. Next. This is a new structure in North Bengal because Siliguri is now a commercial town and it is almost the gateway to the northern states. So there are essential need for hotels. This is Hotel Sinclair. I don't think that such modern structures, unless the understanding of the mountains, but somehow it is very popular. But it is a modern structure. It could be anywhere in Malda, in Siliguri, in Jalpaiguri, or in Guwahati. But you see, modern architects have to think in many functional aspects also. So, taking into account the traditional architecture, they have to go for new modern to find our definition as new architecture emerging from our old experience. Next. This is another view of the same hotel. Now I take you to, you have to call it a masterpiece of architecture. Next. This is the Coronation Bridge. It was done by our department, PWD, many years ago. But you see, as chief architect, I share the pride with my counterpart, chief engineer, because it is also marvelous. It is on a huge arch over the river Tista, and this bridge connects the entire Duars, Assam, with the mainland, because Tista divides the hills into two. I dare say, and I ask my architect friends to see that even a structure can be so beautiful that it can claim its value as a piece of architecture. Next. Now, next we come to the central zone. It's also known as Malta zone. This is a place where Islamic, Hindu, and colonial influences have mixed up again, has been in a melting pot again. This is a place where the previous capital of Bengal was situated. It's in Murshidabad. Later, after the Battle of Plassey, the capital was shifted to Delhi. We shall come to Calcutta first, Delhi much later. Murshidabad was the place of the kings and used to serve as capital of Bengal that time. And there are many styles in Malda, and you see the mostly Islamic influence are there. This is, can you think, in Murshidabad, Malda, it's in Malda, it's absolutely a thing of a Pathan architecture that we see in Delhi and outside Delhi. So it seems that they came up to here and established, this is typically a Pathan arch, it's not a Mughal arch. And these mosques are still there, although in ruins, but they give a trace of what Bengal used to be during the Islamic rulers. They were good builders, they were prolific builders, and has left many buildings after they were shifted and they were defeated by the colonial rulers and the capital was shifted to Calcutta. I show some more buildings of this style. Next. This is Sonar Mosque in that Malta region. You can again see the sturdy, stony looks of Pathan architecture. Next, next. This is also another view of the mosque. Another view. This is also another mosque. It's Adena Mosque. Next. But the previous one, it has a dome. You can find a dome there. It has a dome. And next, there's again the series of Pathan arches. This is Adina Mosque in Mamalda. Next. Now, the influence of the ruler, the kings here, the ruling kings, after they got affiliation to rule after the Islamic rulers, they were more rather inviting to the Western styles, and their palaces used to be of the European style with Doric columns, you can see the trabeated type of architecture with big windows and parapets and the steps, bell mouth steps. Next. This is a typical Hajar Duari Hindu kings, the ruler's temple, ruler's house, from where this is in Murshidabad. It's called Hajar Duari Palace, and you can find the columns, the tops, and other features which is much more similar to the European architecture, but of a mixed style. Next. This is a view of the ruins that again you can see the columns, and after that it was this is the Qasim Bajar Palace, and well, you can also see a turret with a pinnacle. Again, that thing has peeped in, that another style has peeped into the previous style. This is the typical interior, and above you can see the roof that was mainly, we call it Kadi and Barga in our parlance of the masons, but it is the beams and subsidiary beams above which the tiles used to be spread, and on the top lime terracing. No cement that time, lime surki terracing. They used to reduce the temperature inside. Lime terracing was a very eco-friendly terracing that time that was used in architecture of Bengal. Next, the skylight that used to light up the courtyard. Next. Again, you can see the combination of arches, pillars, balconies, skylights, and that roof I was mentioning, that beams and tiles and lime terracing above. All things are now assembling towards a typical Bengali architecture that we had seen from our childhood. It has not been borrowed from a particular style. The Bengali architects slowly developed this for their comfort. The courtyard type architecture in the hot, humid, and places are very comfortable to stay. Courtyard type houses are very comfortable to stay because the inside temperatures are much less than the outside ones. This is a typical staircase, mostly in marble. And next. This is the thing I was wanting to mention that was there in also in the churches of Kalimpong and Darjeeling. The colored glasses, they are certainly outside influence, because The glass was used by almost every rich residents of Bengal that time. People liked it, and they developed a part and parcel of the architecture that was developed by the Bengali Babus. This in many Calcutta houses you also see this, and well, I shall return with this example in another place, and very interesting place that was used by none other than Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore. Next. My sketch about a tribal habitat, it is about another zone. This is called the Jungle Mahal zone, hot, dry, and mostly inhabited by the Santals, Kol, Bhil, Munda, Orao. These are all son of the soils. They make beautiful mud huts with a raised platform, smaller windows so that lot of hot air cannot get in, and the inside of the mud huts, the temperature is cooler than outside, and the courtyard is neatly cleaned and a very peaceful place to go either in winter or in summer. They have maintained their tradition and they're still very alive with their drums and flutes. Next. Now I come to another stalwart who adopted this kind of architecture in his university called Shantiniketan. This is a typical Shantiniketan house. This was a clay house and called Shamoli, and you cannot overlook the Buddhist style that was adopted by Gurudev at the entry. The inside temperatures, as I mentioned, is lesser than what is there in Shantiniketan. It's a hot area of Birbhum, and this is the Kala Bhavan and the other departments of which was made clay walls, black clay walls, and slanting roofs. And this is the place where Ramkinkar Bej and Nandalal Bose, Binod Bihari Mukherjee, and Satyajit Ray, they spent their years, and they have made stalwarts of Indian paintings and painters from here. Next. These are the wall decorations. These are very popular in Shantiniketan architecture. I am mentioning this style because you'll see that Gurudev Rabindranath thought about this. He was a poet, no doubt, but he was also a thinker, a visualizer. And Patrick Geddes, that great architect, also very much well admirer of him. He was very. They had interactions, and Patrick Geddes has admired this kind of Shantiniketan architecture because it was eco-friendly, it was different, and it was innovative. Next. A typical Shantiniketan courtyard, you see the teachers used to sit on the bench and the students used to study, and the standard of education was absolutely beyond any question because this place has got two Nobel laureates. One is Amartya Sen and the other one is Rabindranath himself. So the standard of education that time, I don't know now what has happened to this, but these trees provided a shade and a place of education like old ashrams of Tapovan of Muni Rishis. This is also another example of a tribal hut where Gurudev used to come. This is called Talad Dhaj, a palm house. A palm house. The central column is a palm tree on which it has been developed on columns, but the central column is a palm tree. very eco-friendly houses. I have been there. I have been 10 years as advisor of the and member of the campus and building committee of Shantikata. And what I've experienced, once a Brazilian architect who was visiting Shantikata told me that, was your poet an architect? I said, no, but better. He immediately agreed to this, and he said that, why don't you adopt this style as the Bengal style? Because there are many things hidden in this. And when I see his paintings, he looks like he's a painter. When he makes his conception of houses, he is an architect, and poetry live apart. This is another example of the clear house Shamoli. Next. Another example on projections on columns. And next is again Kala Bhavan. Next. Now this is the prayer hall of Shantikatan, where Gurudev, Rabindranath, and stalwarts like Konika Bandyopadhyay and the great singers, they used to come, join and sing the prayer songs, Brahma Sangit. This is a typically different architecture altogether. A man who has idea about Crystal Palace can only conceive this. A Far East Japanese influence on cast iron and glass. What a wonderful thing. I tell my architect friends to realize that 100 years ago, a person or the persons around him could conceive the magic of steel, glass, and in a different style, a Buddhist style, because there were Japanese and China bhavans in Vishwavarati. These two influences have amalgamated together. I tell my architect friends who are attending this seminar, this webinar, see this cast iron details and the temple of glasses and the Japanese. It is a shrine in Crystal Palace kind of construction with steel and glass. How beautiful. Next. And now the glasses inside. When you are inside, you see the outside. This is not the kind of colored glasses that you can see in the church. See the upper levels, the topmost levels. That area reminds us of Byzantine. And again, you see, I hope you can all see this. This was a beautiful inside glass, colored glass used in the prayer hall in Shantikata. Yeah. Next. This is Uttaran. Udayan, Uttaran, these were the residents of the poet himself and his family. You can see the columns. The columns have a typical resemblance with the South Indian columns, the pillars, the open balconies, the projected and the massing. You see, I have been there many times and I could see hours together this kind of massing. I think I don't know whether the poet has ever met Frank Lloyd Wright, but only in his building massing, the grouping the things, I can find this kind of peace and aesthetics. Beautiful. Next. Again, another resident Uttarayan, uh, the chajas and brackets and columns and projected balconies. Myself, I am very much fond of Frank Lloyd Wright, Corbusier, and well, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, because I have been taught in an academy that used to teach us those masters. But after seeing that, when I look at a person and his architecture, who was not an architect per se, but could conceive an architecture which is so much friendly to the surroundings, I feel very surprised. And inside, my God, they're absolutely very much peaceful, cooler than outside, and he succeeded in making it. Okay. Another view. Next. The open stage of Sangeet Bhavan. The Sangeet Bhavan, you know, it is known all over the world because of its musical quality. It was a holistic approach. You can in this here you can the mixture of literature, art, and music was very successfully done here. Another view of Sangeet Bhavan. Next. This is the Shantiniketan building. Was inhabited by poet's father Debendranath, Maharshi Debendranath Thakur. And again, it is an influence of, well, different kind of architecture, not typical Bengali one. Now the bell tower. See this. It still goes, it's in the main compound of the university. This is the Shingo Shodon, the bell tower. Every year it was visited by the prime ministers, including Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, because this university, the Acharya is the prime minister himself. Till now, that tradition goes. Next, another view. See this. China and Japan in Birbhum. Beautiful houses with the plantations were also accordingly done by professors Tanun Shan and the Japanese people who used to come. And the peace and sanity within the building were befitting to an academy and university. Next. Another building, you can also see now, find a turret. That is the turret with a dome, a round stair, and the balconies. Now you can find another feature, the horizontal louvers outside, which is also there in Jodasako, Tagore's Calcutta residence. I'll show you. Horizontal louvers of wood, timber. There is the turret, circular turret. There are parapets up, and this is another building there in Vishwabharati. Next. Now time goes. They also want to go for modern architecture. This is a typical Gitanjali Auditorium of Shantiniketan, which holds concerts, musical concerts. I had the privilege of listening to Pandit Ali Akbar Khan when he was alive in this auditorium, and it's acoustically very good, but not a typical Shantiniketan, but has emerged from different styles, as you can easily see. That it is all the elements amalgamated together that has produced this auditorium. Next. The inside, the chairs, the colored chairs So that it makes a different feeling of V. They are not any other. They're only the chairs in a row that makes this effect. The architect friends can see that an auditorium can escape a boredom by placing the chairs in that intelligent way. Next. Now we go to a completely another style. How much time do I have? Again, can I have 10 minutes more, Shubhra, Mamta?
Yes, sir.
I'll have about a little more because I have almost covered my journey. But
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. You can
Sure,
go
sir.
ahead.
Please go ahead. No.
I believe you are not getting bored with my journey.
Definitely no, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, because I prefer to take you outside the design class and travel through my land. That way I have made my journey through architecture. Next slide. This is another type of Bengal architecture which has evolved in the kingdom of Malda kings in Bishnupur, Bakura. They are derived from the typical thatched roof of Bengal, the vernacular architecture, but they were later made into permanent structures, not in place of thatched roof, the same style, same shape, but previous. They made it like a shape. You can see the units wedge shaped, placed one upon another in such a way that you can find a continued arch or a vault. You cover with concrete with a keystone, and after the thing is remove the shatterings. This makes such a beautiful thing. Then how can you beat it? They are surviving a time of 600 years. There's 700 years. They are still there like that. Terracotta architecture of Bishnupur. Carry on. This is another beautiful example. The proportion is also very good. Next. See the details, the typical magic of terracotta. I believe you will like it. The doorways are of course smaller because they were not very good in big spans, but then sufficient for entering and exiting because they are in number they are more, and you can find some lightning catches outside now on the top, but they're surviving the test of time for a very long time. Another example, so much like a piece of art, sculpture, beautiful. Next, again another view of that. And now I enter another story. The capital of Murshidabad was shifted to Calcutta after a long time, after the Battle of Plassey in 1757, when Robert Clive defeated Siraj-ud-Dowla, and in near the Calcutta, they slowly gathered the strength of Europeans because of three reasons. This is the old Calcutta area. Calcutta had only three villages: Kolikata, Shutanuti, and Gobindapur, along the river Hooghly, which near the estuary of the same Ganga river to Bay of Bengal. And this is the old Calcutta map. Three villages only with one temple one temple, 3.A, 3K, 3K1B, 3K1, 3K. Bus, keep it. Before that, old picture. This was the old temple of Kali Ghat, of goddess Kali, and the rest were surrounded by forest. Only one road connecting north to south, because this town had no option than to go north south like a ribbon, because on the west there was a huge river, the Hooghly or Ganga river, and on the eastern side there was a huge marshy land spread up to the mangroves of Sundarbans. So going east or west was not easy, because making a bridge that time was not unthinkable, and the mainland was divided by the river. Only navigation and ferry boats were the option. That is why Calcutta and Howrah could not grow into a twin city that happened in London or Paris, because the Thames or Seine are much lesser a river than our huge big Ganga. Ganga could not be connected by bridge that time, so the twin city concept could not develop that time. Now I am also getting into town planning a little bit, because I am also a town planner. This temple was connected to Dakshineshwar. Stop it. This temple was at the north end of Calcutta, called Dakshineshwar. The building was made with the money of Rani Rashmoni, the Queen of Calcutta at that time, and it was built by an European company known as Mackintosh Burn, where I got my training after when I graduated from BE College in 1969. And my first office was under the British architects. They are no longer, they left this country, but Mackintosh Burn was responsible for making many great Calcutta architecture. This Mackintosh Burn company built this temple of Dakshineshwar. Very good massing. This is called Navaratna type. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The other ones you don't see, and the main one. 9 makes it Navaratna temple with a curvilinear roof. And again the arches that are again a different kind, that are again a different shape and style. This style is a typical Bengali vernacular style with curvilinear roof and archala type. But the parapets and the arches and the columns, certainly you can see the Gothic Doric columns are there. So again I say that Calcutta was a cauldron, a mixing cauldron of different styles, and it evolved its own architecture in course of time. The steps. Next. The first man who landed in 1690 here, the European called Job Charnock, he realized that for spreading East India Company here, he needs a safe place. So river could give him a protection because of the bent there. He could place his guns to protect his fort from all sides on the west. And there was a forest on the east which were tested by guns and called Goder Mart, the field of the fort. Sorry. This is the octagonal shape of Job Charnock's tomb. Now this is the mainland station, Howrah station. The river, and now it is connected by bridge, but that time people had only a pontoon bridge or would be ferried across. But it's a very beautiful building with again different styles amalgamate together. This is one of the very early stations of India in that Imperial Railway, the British Railway, that connected the mainland with Calcutta and the east of Calcutta. Next. The High Court building, a typical Gothic architecture. When I was requested by my chief minister to, because this was not giving more space for the more increasing number of judges and advocates, to build another high court in its vicinity, I was quite apprehensive, because how can I make such a short time? Because it's a piece of necklace, and I wouldn't rather have a set of masons to give me these Gothic arches and rib vaults anymore. These are mansard roofs. And what this is. So I built this in concrete in RCC, but tried to make a master arch. But I don't think that within this short time I could match the British architect. He had much more advantage of time, material, and labor. But well, people say that the building was good. Next. This is another view of this new. You can, I think, recognize the old High Court at the skyline, and the man standing there as a hero is no other than first Shahid Khudiram, who gave his life in gallows to free his country, our country. And we are breathing in a free country because of these, our ancestors. So this is another view of Calcutta High Court, designed by me. Next. This was built by my predecessor, Janab Habib Rahman, my boss, and Mr. Banerjee. I was a junior architect that time when this was built. This is another High Court building. Style was certainly, but the materials and the workmanship was, well, not matching and not time permitting also, and not fund permitting. So we had to make a compromise. Next. This was the original revolt and things of Gothic architecture, which I think was not possible for us to go for. So, next. This is a St. Paul's Cathedral in Calcutta, a cathedral that was again a Gothic architecture with buttresses. All the elements, as architect, you all know, Mamta, Shubhra, you all have studied Gothic architecture, flying buttress, pinnacles, and, well, the typical aisle and inside as church. This is the college where I studied architecture from, the Bengal Engineering College. This is another view of the old administrative building of writers' buildings. This is the inside of a Gothic corridor. Beautiful. I don't think that even if I know how to make it on sketches, but no government or nobody would now permit me to make a replica of this because of the fund crunches and time crunches. Next. This I told you that long joists and side subsidiary beams and tiles, and you can see the columns, decorated tops. These are not the Doric columns. These are used in these High Court buildings, but they're a different kind of columns. Certainly not Doric, Ionic, or Corinthian. This is our Raj Bhavan, Governor House. Again, we remember our Greek architecture, which I teach in the classes, the classical forms of Doric columns and entablatures and high steps. And this is also a good looking building. Next. Howrah Station again. This is a typical Bengali house that has developed by borrowing from different styles. The decorated arches covering the balconies at the ground floor, the horizontal timber louvers to protect rains on the upper balconies, iron pillars, roll steel joist over subsidiary beams, tiles, and lime surki, lime terracing on the roof with parapet. And of course, a courtyard inside, because courtyard type housing in Calcutta and suburbs, because of hot, humid, and rather uncomfortable weather in the summer, these courtyards were excellent. This is like the UP have found their own Havelis, typical. This is a courtyard type we call Chok Milano. In local Mason's parlance, it's Chok Milan Koti. This is a typical Bengali house in Calcutta of that time. Next. That kind of roof that I was mentioning, the method of construction, it is there. I have given this slide for the students to see. The main beams, subsidiary beams, tiles above. Now you can see the station building with now the bridge has been constructed in 1944. The river, the two sides were connected by a cantilever hanging bridge, again our pride. Possibly a cinema was also made in the name of Howrah Bridge, where Ashok Kumar was there. Howrah Bridge carried the attraction and surprise of people all over India because it was a marvelous piece of architecture. Howrah Bridge, a cantilever hanging bridge over the huge river. Next. The Victoria Memorial with the ferry above that used to rotate with wind. A beautiful piece of architecture again, and you see the reflection in the pond facing. Next. A view of National Library. It used to be a residence of the governor, previously Belvedere. Now it is our National Library. Another view. Now you see the modern architects have, our friends, our counterparts have made an annex building of National Library. You can see Bhasha Bhavan. It is rather certainly another functional architecture with auditoriums and things. But if you want to ask me, do they really match? I leave the question on to you because the style do not match, and what we have now in our hands to make are certainly not they had to go with. Different, but we have to go ahead. This is the annex building of National Library. Next. Another typical Bengali residence of a neighborhood. You can see the timber windows and of course the columns. And the columns are there. And possibly there are many places in Calcutta where you don't expect a Doric column, but suddenly you stop and see that a cast iron gas light or a Greek column has made its way into a Bengali life. Just next. This is the Bishop's College, the B College I told you about. Another Gothic example. Next. And this is the college building made by this chief architect Bengal, where I could not imagine in my student life that I would be allowed to make a building in this campus, but I did. And this is a very functional building, but I don't think that I could match my my ancestors to make but somehow we have to get on. It's a good building, people say, but see the previous one. I like this one more because it is related to my student life, with turrets, with Gothic architecture, and a central big gate with arches. The Senate House, go on, old Senate House of University, another view. This is the new Senate House. Again, my counterpart friends who made it. This is not designed by me. It was done when I was a student of school. He made a very good building, but he is criticized because people still say that this cannot replace the Senate House that I have just shown you. But he had to make a functional building, and he was left with RCC steel and glasses only. He could not go for so slow brick construction anymore. This is another view of the Calcutta University. Medical College, old view. Medical College, old view. The old Fort William. When in 1911, after the Lord Curzon divided Bengal into East and West, there was a huge turmoil, and the capital was shifted in 1911 to Delhi. The Calcutta, the capital, it went to Lutyens, Delhi, and this has only became Eastern Command, but before that it was the main command. Now this is the building that turned the situation and the scenario of old and new. It stands as a bridge between the old and the new. The new Secretariat Building, it is discussed all over the world. It was done by my predecessor, Janab Habibur Rahman and architect Banerjee, when I was a small child. This is new Secretariat Building. I think it is one of the earliest attempts of multi-storied and a very good building of international standard that was made with RCC. Next. The same building, new Secretariat. Again, this building with a view from the river side. It is on the river side. The Calcutta Museum. Next. The Calcutta Museum. এবার শেষ করব, উঠে যাস না। This is the octagonal monument now made Shahid Minar. Another interesting, the domes these are Mughal domes, Persian architecture. This is Nakoda Masjid of Calcutta, which still bears the signs of Islamic influence in Calcutta. This is another beautiful building, you see, from the rear side of Raj Bhavan. And we go to the last side, the Bay of Bengal side. The coastal habitat is stormy. Lot of wind. You can see, you can heard about typhoons like Ayla and Amphan. The wind speed is terrible. So they make the huts, the local people, from edges where the wind did not face a flat wall. It used to be blown up tangentially along the, so the circular huts. This was used in Calcutta for making a friend of mine, my counterpart. Can you see this? This is a science city of Calcutta done in the shape of storm shelter. My friend, my classmate Aftabuddin, who is no more in the world, had made it, and we were not only we were classmates, we stayed in the same hostel together. Next, science city, and typical storm shelter that we had a second year project along with him in the he was my project partner also. We did it second year architecture class, and he translated that design into a huge international building, Science City of Calcutta. Next. And a back view. I think I just run through the slides, and this is another modern architecture in Calcutta. This Arts Acre, Vikas Bhavan. Typical Calcutta Gate in Salt Lake, New Calcutta, Rajarhat. Another side. This is, you remember Sachi Stoop, but this is actually Birla Tara Mandal. And well, my last feature is that we have always tried to amalgamate the old with new. This is the latest marvel of Calcutta, the Vidyashagar cable suspension bridge, and below that old James Prinsep Memorial, which was renovated by my department some years ago. The coexistence of old and new, from these two influences we find our own identity. And my last request to my fellow friends is that interact with the people, try to understand people's requirement and the grammar of our architecture, and we certainly find an avenue for architecture of India, new architecture of India. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You actually took us through a holistic talk, talking not just about the patriotism, the pride, the journey from the past to new, vernacular to modern, and also the hills to the foothills, the tribals to the new. You have explained the various aspects of architecture. You spoke about simplicity, purity, and adaptability. We are honored to have you with us here today, and this intriguing and vast knowledge sharing has really added level to our architectural knowledge. I would now
Thank you very much.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being with us. I would now invite my director,
My
Dr.
student
Mamta
Tiyasha,
Piraj.
thank her also. She was all the time with
Yes, sure.
Tiyasha.
We also thank the assistant of Sir Tiasha, who has been helping us through technical as well as overall coordination. Thank you, dear. Okay, and now with this thanks, I would invite our director, Professor Mamta Piraj, Dr. Mamta Piraj, to please introduce the next speaker to the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very interesting, inspiring, motivating journey you took us through. And it was very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to the next speaker. Well, the end that marked the beginning of modern architecture, Indian architecture, was also the beginning of several architectural innovations and challenges in the upcoming years. Our second speaker has been honored as the protagonist of Pierre Jenner and has lived 60 years of architectural profession with 40 years of pioneering practice in Chandigarh. Architect Shivdat Sharma, former Chief Architect, Department of Space, Government of India, started his own practice by adopting and extending the philosophy of modernism by Le Corbusier and Pierre Generate. His professional affiliations includes Chairman IIA Bangalore, Advisor Architecture and Planning, Punjab University, Fellow Member IIA, Member COA and Institute of Interior Designers, Experts Panel for Housing appointed by the Indian Council of Social Science Research and a consultant, HUDA. He has received several awards, including Lifetime Achievement Award, NCRC 2015, Great Master Award India, JK Cement 2013, Architect of the Year 1998, JK Cement, Chandigarh Icon Award 2017, Golden Architect Award India, Gold Medal by Friendship Forum India, Babu Rao Matre Gold Medal Award 2001, Excellence in Urban Architecture IIA 1993. He has his monograph forwarded by architect B.V. Doshi and authored by Vikramaditya Prakash. The list of his publications and published lectures and articles includes around 50 mentions. To name a few award-winning projects, architect S.D. Sharma has won competitions for work on Punjab University Auditorium Complex, proposed IT Park at Panchkula, EDC Building at Chandigarh, SGPGI Lucknow, and Videsh Sanchar Nigam Delhi. His famous interview includes one by renowned architect Christopher Benninger in Conversation, Master in Conversation with the Mentor. Sir, before we welcome you, it's a proud moment for me to introduce you. A few years back, I had the privilege of receiving A3 Award 2 from you. I extend a very hearty welcome to you on behalf of BMS College of Architecture and COA-TRC, Bhopal. We welcome you to the first chapter of Quadrants 2021 and are keen to relive the journey of your vast experiences over this span of 60 years. Over to you, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. We can hear you.
Can I talk?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. While talking about architecture, I have been brought up and have been practicing purely modern architecture, which speaks that we are not borrowing any style, anything from anywhere, neither from India nor from abroad. So that is the sort of modern architecture which started in 1950 in Chandigarh. You see, this Chandigarh was absolutely necessary for two reasons. One, because of refugee rehabilitation, and other, looking for the seat of the government. This period, which I am assigned in 1947 to 60, is a very small portion of my practice or my works. But anyway, it is my honor that CA and TRC has included me in these talks, and especially my thanks to architects Habib Khan, whom I know. I've listened a lot about him. I've seen him, but I have not personally met him. So I think Council of Architecture has got a very dynamic president, who is working all over to promote the cause of architecture. In Chandigarh, I had the honor to work with legends. The legends of our era, like Le Corbusier, Perigondre, and there were two more associates, and the couple, English couple, Maxwell Fry and Jane Bidru. I happened to work with each one of them, but the maximum period I spent working with him and learning from was from Perigondre. So it's a sort of architecture which we learned in pure lines and learning of purity, regulating lines, and rationality, logic. These things, Corbusier said that he has investigated the conscience of the present society, contemporary society, and the needs which contemporary society needs have been studied by me for 40 years. And this is what I'm going to give in Chandigarh. By the time I think Chandigarh was planned, it was simultaneously planning and architecture both going on. If you used to go to places, one table to another, the architecture was going on one side and town planning on one side. But architecture, town planning, or landscaping, all were speaking of the same language. So that was a great thing because they talked of only purity and purity in their own discipline and modernism. Modernism, which was probably a pioneer was Corbusier himself, who came to Chandigarh to build it in 1920. This was probably is the era which needed modernism. Before Corbusier thought of modernism as a sort of movement in architecture, modernism as a thought and philosophy was being simmering in the Western society because of the advanced technology of science and advanced technology, which were being built into the present architecture. Of course, with the new founding of materials like steel and glass and so on. So the question is that I learned from a school. I considered the Chandigarh Architect's Office as a school because it is from there that we learned the subtleties of architecture and the basic fundamentals which one should go along to enrich the life of people. And that was the main purpose. So, and that is how we think that Chandigarh today is a laboratory for planners, architects, sociologists, economists, and every discipline, because they can find their place in this whole experiment of architecture, which I experienced for more than 12, 13 years. So, you see this genre, Corbusier, where can you find a man like this with whom I had the opportunity, a rarest opportunity to work with him. And we had read about him, listened about him, but it was for the first time that we could stand by him or sit in front of him and watch how this great man is imbibing his philosophy or his thoughts in every line he is drawing. His method was that architecture is on one side, but it must be mathematically proved. And that is how he evolved modular. And he is the first architect in the world that said that architecture is mathematical, organizational, and it can be proved like that when you use modular. He said modular is something that which makes the good to happen easy and bad difficult. So that sort of thing. And he said, we have not borrowed any style from either West or India because it's a modern world. We should only plan for the contemporary society, what it needs. So that's why he has not borrowed anything and innovated according to the new technology available architecture, which has no bearing otherwise. So, in that, he said many things like prophetic talking, prophet talking prophetically, that you see, life is passion, and without passion, you can't create anything. And he said, what is need? Architecture is just to do work and work in consistency and to be constant. One needs to be modest, perseverant. And he said it's not a weakness. One has to be modest, and that modesty speaks of courage and strength. And he said, when you face to face yourself, you are the only judge of yourself because it is your conscious which can judge you the best. So it is yourself who can grow from a repellent stage to a stage of sublime. Then that sort of prophetic word he said for the humanity, for the architects and planners at large. So, and the other fellow, Visionary, the apostle of humility. The apostle of humility. Am I clear, Chubra?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Each and
Okay.
every word is clear. Thank you.
Yeah. So this man, he said that it is for you. Art is everywhere, but you have to have the eye to find it. And he said, it is you who can infuse life into the lifeless things and create something which is timeless. He said that one has to be very modest, and modesty, he was like a saint. Modesty and like a saint is a rare combination, and only naturally a saint can wear this as a garland and no other. So anyway, with this, I think we'll start our presentation. Uh,
Can you make it full screen,
and
please?
thanks to Professor Mamkavi Raj and also Shubhra um, for bringing me in this talk.
Thank you, sir.
Next. Well, when we talk of 47 to 60, it's a very small period of my career. But I thought probably I have to contain within this. And this way, I've selected certain things to talk to you people about. 1947 is a year of partition and independence also. This is the way the people used to flee with the fear that if they are left behind, they will be killed. And I was one of them who's trying to board the train with my parents. First train came and we could not board because they were not very well, they were a little sick. So the next time we have to stay in a school nearby in a room, around 30 families. And out of fear, nobody will go out. In the same room, they were trying to piss and whatever. It was like a living in a toilet. So that sort of thing I have witnessed. And the other thing was that we could not carry, they not carry big luggage. So the young people out of each family, they will come with the bullock carts where the luggage will be kept. And when it rained, and the bullocks cannot take that heavy luggage, which is drenched almost. So they will throw things one by one. So anyway, this is the story, and which I witnessed, and I am one of those shattered survivors who could cross over the border. But that didn't finish with me because we landed in a place where there is no home, no resources, no money. So it took me several years to come to the track which brought to my destiny, that is architecture. No, architecture was sort of promoted by Pandit Nehru himself, who was the chief modernist himself. They wanted to modernize India. And Corbusier, another modernist who wanted to enrich society. So you can see in this picture, they are talking in confidence and sharing their socialistic thoughts and democratic thoughts before the start of Chandigarh. And he said and assured Pandit Nehru that I will try to do my best because I'm a modernist and you are also a modernist in a way because you want to modernize India to come match with the West, if not surpass. So that is how these great people were talking about themselves, and not only talking but showing what they could do for the Indian society, not being an Indian themselves. But look at John Ray. He stayed around for 14 years. And when he left, because he was sick in 1965, He said, I'm leaving my country and going to the foreign country. He owned this country so much, loved this country so much, and loved his own creation that he told his niece, Jacqueline, that after my death, my ashes should be submerged in this lake so that I live even after my death with my creations. Next. Now, these are the four creators of Chandigarh, as I told. Corbusier introduced brute concrete all over the world because he built all over the world, in both aspects of the world. And he introduced concrete, brute concrete. And he said it is something which is very versatile. It is giving you a face which is timeless, doesn't require any maintenance, and it is as pure as sky. You never get sick of seeing this pattern or this surface. So he introduced concrete in many ways, invented many things out of concrete, and concrete was the only material which could take his sculptures forms which he built as a sculptor, as a painter. He was 3 in 1 working in any building, as an architect, as a painter, and as a sculptor. People said that you started as a painter and you are a very good painter. You talked to the best painters in France, and my architecture. And he said that through this profession, probably in a best way, I can serve society. Anyway, so this was the sort of thing. And he said, I do both the things with the same passion. So I've not stopped painting. He continued painting all his life, and so the architecture. And this humble fellow, P. John Ray, he introduced brick, the sort of earthly material which is very warm otherwise, to look at, doesn't require any maintenance, and very easy to work with, doesn't require any big technology. So he created, innovated brick, giving a very new dimension to brick itself, created jollies, grills, and so many such things out of this earthly material, and gave great personality to this material otherwise. And Fry and Drew, they said it is a very divine energy by which these two fellows came and put forward their point of view that we should come and work for Chandigarh. That time Adena has already done his master plan, and these fellows have to just assist to create architecture. But Corbusier, who was a sort of leading light and a very, very great architect, he said in 4 days he changed the master plan and could plead that this is better than the Myers plan and so on in many ways. And that is how that master plan was accepted. And Corbusier and his cousin, John Ray. Fry and Drew, they were having rotary practice, and they only said that this, with the divine energy, they came to make us throw our rowing practice and come and join that Chandigarh project. So he says if we have to do architecture, then all sort of sacrifices sometimes we have to do. No, these are two temporary buildings, the first buildings to come on the soil of Chandigarh. Now you can imagine yourself, one is a modern building and the other is a reminiscent of colonial architecture. This temporary building by John Ray has many things which are sustainable, which create sustainable architecture, which are having a perfect orientation. They have some sort of protection to heat gains, and so many such things which one can talk about, and it's a sort of example in architecture built as a temporary structure and will remain as a leading example for the architects to come. In the new generation also, they will refer this building. Next. So this modernism was depicted in planning of doing the master plan, the vistas, the roads, their orientation, and the view they see, and the sort of plan for the futuristic need when the vehicles are there, so that they can take the fast traffic. And there are different types of roads in the city, like you must have all seen by this time, because it's 70 years old story. I'm trying to sort of retrospect. And so all sorts of things, roads, planning, landscaping, architecture, as I said. And they were all speaking the same language and built in harmony and created something which is worthwhile. Now, the Corbusier had very selected buildings himself, apart from the master plan he did. The most important and probably the best of his life was Capitol Complex. In Capitol Complex, he did 4 edifices and 4 monuments. And this is how I have drawn the whole Capitol Complex is shown in the middle. The edifices on the left and the monuments on the right side. Out of all this, I respect these monuments much more, because they are the structures which speak of humanity. They talk of many lessons for humanity, and they also teach architecture to anybody who wants to go beyond and learn architecture for the future. Next. Now, these are the 4 edifices. Corbusier explained this capital complex, the whole, as a acropolis, of modern acropolis. And this building, assembly building, he said it's is some sort of resemblance against Parthenon, and so on. So you can see in the combination of molded sculptures, forms, and other things, and built-in technology, and created architecture by men, women, and donkeys, which is still very wonderful, and even in the last machines and technology cannot do. The people come here and appreciate the workmanship, the quality of construction, which was done by these peoples. And imagine people, the Jinju, she said, when these ladies used to carry baskets on their head and carry material, that queens are building the Chandigarh. Next. And these are the monuments. One is the Martyrs Memorial, because that time, Chief Minister of the Punjab state, he wanted to put a sculpture or statue or something to commemorate the people, those who died in this whole massacre. So but then Corbusier translated it in a very different way, and there is all because these are the buildings. Each building can take an hour to explain and to show everything in depth, but 40 minutes I would consider this and show whatever can be. This Tower of Shadows, this is a sort of lesson for architects. Or from all the sides, one can protect the building and see that the inside is cool and comfortable. This building at a place is also a temple to the sun. And some bishop of some country has written a very beautiful poem telling God that, oh God, we are very thankful for creating sun, who creates life and who gives everything for the human good. So he says, but it appears that he is like a sort of brother to you, because he also creates life as you are. So this is the sort of tower he builds as a temple to the sun, and a total lesson to the architects. Another fellow, Andre, as we said, he was indulgent. I mean, very, very meticulously working architect, and he created architecture which has its own specific vocabulary in brick only. And you can see the jalis and the meticulous details. In fact, till such time, Indian architects had not known all these things, neither seen, and gave no importance to the details. he could only show to the Indian architects and teach them, because teaching Indian architects was one of his duty in the sort of agreement with him. And he was also the first director or principal of the College of Architecture, Chandigarh. So that's the sort of details which was beautiful to look at, and early architecture. The English couple that created architecture for housing, schools, colleges, hospitals. They opted to sort of mix the two, brick and stone, and mostly did their work in plastered and whitewash. That's it. These are the things I think everybody must be knowing by this time. Modular, the sort of proportions which are taken from the human body. This is in line with the Vitruvius and in line with the traditions of Vitruvius and Vitruvian man. So this is in two books. The first one was published in 1948. As I've already explained, he's the only man who could prove architecture mathematically and through modular only. So Chandigarh, because it has all the ideals and the principles of modernism, so that's why when we were working in the architect's office as young fellows, we could every day see that there is a talk of modernism and modular only. Only two things we were taught, and nothing else. Modernism, modular. So my body followed these two things. And there are many small things like these digital dimensions, 10.5 inch or 7.5 inch, which doesn't match the brick or regular work which was being done there, and which the workers knew. So they say they will come to the architects and said, well, these dimensions don't work practically. But nobody could change. Even when they went to genre, that this is the difficulty which engineers are facing. Why not change these dimensions? He said, I can't. And only when Corbusier, who used to come twice in a year for a period of 1 month each, will come and said, yes, these can be changed to brick dimension. Learning all this from these four legends, I try to put whatever was taught in the form of modernism. And this was the first job which I got to do. It's a Sikh temple, and I used Sikh turban as a metaphor and created this structure. It was since of the members who are probably very progressive who could take Gurdwara or the Sikh Temple in this form, because it's not a replica of Sikh architecture. But anyway, they accepted, and the structure was built by very, very important engineers there. The second thing was that I had the opportunity to make a house for my own younger brother. This is in brick, and most of the structures which John Ray created or proprietary were with the brick and white lines, white maybe structural lines or something, and beams. But I thought that why not it should be a monolithic thing even in brick, like Corbusier can create in concrete. That is all same surface throughout, like a sculpture or round. So in this I avoided that and created something in brick. And you can see the handling as a parapet or suspended things to check rain, etc. So the strange part is that after 60 years, there was a letter from an Italian company that we have seen this house in a publication somewhere, and now we want to publish this in some of the selected works all over the world, those who have done modern work and interpreted modernity in their own language, in their own way. Next. Another very early job which John Ray interested me to do was a Central Scientific Instruments organization building in a big campus where we planned housing institutional buildings, workshops, and then cafeteria, etc. So that was all in the plan. And that is for the first time that I created horizontal ducts linked with the vertical one to see that all wet surfaces are on the outside and only in the corridors are dry surfaces like telephone lines, electric lines, and other gas and so many other things inside. This is one of the building, the cafeteria, which was built in this way because this was in the center of the whole campus with the buildings all around in sort of stiff straight lines. So we created this as a sort of structure, as a sculpture to sort of soften that atmosphere. Again, my seniors will not like this, and they say that you are looking like more Wrightian than Corbusian, and it's not done in Chandigarh. I said, well, we can take it to John Ray and have his own opinion. When John Ray said that he has a reason to do this, like I have done Gandhi Bhavan in the whole university as a structure mellowing the whole stiff development all around. Why not? And that is how this got built. Otherwise, there were some problems. So, in the same spirit, in the same campus, some hostels were done. At that time, when sort of 57, 56, that was a period that there were no air conditioners, air coolers, and people used to sleep on the terraces under the ceiling sky. And I found it absolutely necessary that for all habitation, this terrace is absolutely necessary, which I built in. And somehow, this was also the first thing in Chandigarh because all the housing built all around didn't have this sort of terraces. Now, this is the housing which in the same campus, and there was a lot of disparity otherwise seen in the society. But here I tried to do away with that, and a structure is created which is tapering upward by putting a big house on the ground floor, and then lesser and lesser according to the hierarchy of the campus and the people working in those houses. And for example, this sort of window was innovated in a way that people on the first floor cannot see the lawns with the ground floor man. Nice. Same way, we did the housing for the low-income group, creating terraces on every level, and the development appeared to be very sculpturous. Next. Those days, there's a state guest house, all in brick again, and the way I interpreted it, without any structural lines in between, or white lines within the brick surface. So I tried that, avoid that, and the architecture was, well, quite appealing. And glazing is in the undulatory fashion. So this was another opportunity was to build Art College Hospital. This was selected for Indian architects' work to be used in an exhibition in Paris, along with other work, architects' work working that time as a practicing architect. People like Convinde, Habib Rahman, Rana, Mansingh Rana, and Charles Korea, Doichi, like that. Those were all trained abroad and knew about modernism or modern thoughts, and they were trying to create architecture in that fashion and in that feeling of modernism. And though this fitted in that and next. This is a the institute built in Chandigarh in Chapter 39. This was a scientific setup. The whole thing was grouped as per the needs of the institute. The tower, the rich high blocks were put in together because the more services, which are times more expensive than the building itself, are grouped together to avoid wastage and lengthy carrying of the services and so on. So it was taken very well, and the material and technology used that time, probably now 50 years or more, is still appreciated. I remember next time I went for an interview to have another work. He said, have you seen Institute of Macro Technology before we can give this work to you? I kept quiet, but later on they came to know that he is the architect of that building. See, all these corridors are used as the carrier of services. The upside of the corridor and the bottom. The upper side is to take the ducts, air conditioning, and the bottom is taken for services like electricity and other services, gases, and so many services are required in this sort of building. Then this is again Sarabai Hall. It was a mix of an auditorium, seminar hall, and another committee room. So all the needs were put in a form of a triangle. Well, luckily, I was in the set of scientists, those who are very progressive in their thoughts, because they are, through science, they are also trying to find new things. And they could accept this as a new thing and appreciated, and it was built. And later on, the chairman of the department, he told me that this was one of the best we could think of, and we are very proud of this. In the cultural zone of cultural belt, there are a few buildings. This is the Museum of Science, and there are other buildings also in the same belt. This is a sort of cyclorama where the evolution of the man is shown, and Dr. Randhawa was the first commissioner of Chandigarh, and he was trying to patronize this. So one time this building was stopped because of funds. And a nice story he used to tell, that when I went to Delhi to arrange funds, the Babus will say, what is this evolution of man and this and that? It's not productive. So then he named this as Museum of Science, and he got the money. The other thing I happened to do was to make city museum. Now, then I was trying to do that cultural belt where there is museum and art gallery building, and then this city museum and the museum of France. They are built in the same sort of uh, feeling in continuity in a campus. So this is a sort of replica of Corbusier's building, which he built in Zurich in steel and steel panels. But that sort of thing we could not do technically, and also may not suit the climate of our place, Chandigarh. So we sort of transfer and translated that into concrete. We have to sort of, because our requirements were different, and we have to use the same elements by changing the requirements, by creating some basement, semi-basement, and the same form in concrete, and ultimately I think the result was admired and appreciated. And this is the museum and art gallery I was talking, designed by Corbusier. And you can say that this is the simplest building he could build in Chandigarh, apart from other things, but for capital complex. And I happened to work with him on this building. So, unfortunately, he died when the building was only a little above the foundations, and everything then I had to manage on the basis of the sketches, just our normal basic sketches which we got from Paris. But probably this is the best building of that nature of in a low profile in Chandigarh, which is appreciated as Corbusier's building. Next. Now, all this work, which I said that up to 60s, is a very small portion which I could cover, because mostly it covers the period of experiencing Chandigarh only, because even that is not enough. Chandigarh, my stay in Chandigarh lasted even more than that. I left Chandigarh in 1973 to take as chief architect Department of Space, ISRO, and so a lot of work in Department of Space, and then afterwards in my practice. It's a sort of inspiration for the young architects and the students that even at the age of now, 90, I'm still working and creating architecture in the same way as I have created earlier, with no sort of aging neither in architecture. And so far I'm concerned, probably I think that the age is probably a number. There may be some physical changes, but mind rather grows richer with the experience, and there is no shortcut to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was as always, it was a meditative journey and a meditative session from a legend who has lived 60 years of his life as an architect. In fact, we can say that he has lived his architectural life for 60 years. It was full of emotions, the beliefs you have, the soul of Chandigarh, and nevertheless, the theme of quadrants, that is owning the country and loving our own creation, no matter where we are staying right now. I could compare this narration to various journeys and holy books and can believe that architecture for some is the religion. I really thank you, sir, for all your time. I really hope we could absorb some part of it, and not just the humanitarian aspect, not just the simplicity, but yes, the architectural lessons you have given to us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Meet you again on the fourth Friday of February, that is 26th February 2021, with the next chapter, Architecture Betwixt Policies, where we have speakers who are a part of policy making and have been playing a major role in Indian policies. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
may we conclude this session, Navneet, sir, with your permission?
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank you.
you all. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, Ranjan sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Thank
Sharma
you.
sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mamta ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you, Shubhra. Thank you,
Thank
Rachna.
you.
Sharma
Thank
ji
you.
from
Namaskar.
Bengal, my salute goes to you.